We ready? All right. Now, I'm going to try and keep up with this video. At .03 seconds into this video, Mr. Arbery turns around on Holmes. Now, stop. What I want you to do is not so much look at the video at this point. Listen with your ears to the noises in the background, because they tell you what's really going on, even when what you see on the screen is unclear. At .04, you'll hear Roddie Bryan tap the brakes. He's still in drive, and you'll see he's going at approximately 2 miles per hour. Yeah, let's try that again. It's very, very difficult to get this video precise. Yes, we're looking for 4 seconds. We're looking for the speed on the speedometer. Okay. Well, what you can see is that Mr. Bryan is, you hear him tap the brakes. You hear Mr. Bryan tap his brakes, but he's still in drive and he's going about 2 miles per hour, which is about the same speed that Mr. Arbery is moving. He's been described as chasing Mr. Arbery, as hunting Mr. Arbery, as attempting to run Mr. Arbery down. But what you see on the video, and there is you can see that Mr. Bryan is moving at approximately 2 miles an hour, and you can see that the seat belt is not in place. Now, at this point, we're going to go ahead and play it to about the 17-second mark. Listen for the gear shifts. I'm sorry, it's not there yet. Go ahead. You can see Mr. Bryan's foot is not on the gas pedal. Now, you hear a motor vehicle go by. We can guess which vehicle that is, but we hear it pass. And then at 20 seconds, we're going to hear the seatbelt alarm go off. Now, at 26 seconds, you can hear the transmission shift as Mr. Bryan puts his truck in park. And then 2 seconds later, you'll hear Mr. Bryan buckle his seatbelt. Now, at about 30 seconds, and I'm going to go through this with you before we play it so you'll know what to listen for, Mr. Bryan utters the famous words, "I'm going to keep going." And you'll notice that his cell phone is down. This is where he says, "I'm going to keep going." And the state is suggesting to you, if I recall the opening statement and the opening portion today, that this is where Mr. Bryan is turning around to give chase to Mr. Arbery in the moments before his death. But if you listen carefully, I think you'll hear a somewhat different story and a different truth.
You know what? I'm gonna keep going.
Mr. Bryan says, "I'm going to keep going." He's put the car in gear. But if you watch, you'll see Mr. Bryan isn't going back towards Mr. Arbery. He's not going back towards the McMichaels. He's going in the opposite direction, and he starts at a high rate of speed. Here, the wheels lose traction slightly. Now, you can't see yet, but he's not moving towards Mr. Arbery. He's moving away, and you'll see why in a moment. Now, here you can see the speedometer is, at this point, he's slowed back down. He's at 4 miles an hour at the 51-second mark. And shortly after this, you hear him put shift the transmission again. And I think you'll see it's clear from the context, which is a K-turn, that he is putting the truck into reverse. And then a few seconds later, he puts it back into drive. This is the K-turn near the top of homes that you see on the reenactment video. Top of homes near Zellwood. Go ahead. Okay. When I start the video up, when we start the video up, it's a team project here. When we start the video up, listen for Mr. Bryan's breathing. I think when you hear his breathing, you will hear something different than the state has suggested. Now, I can't tell you how to interpret it, but what I hear is someone who is labored breathing. Breathing as if he was in fear. Also, around the same time, watch Mr. Bryan's leg, which is momentarily visible on the gas pedal, and see whether you don't agree that Mr. Bryan's leg is literally shaking. Now, he's not driving a Cadillac. I'm sure there's vibration in the vehicle, but if you watch his leg in relation to the rest of the car, to the rest of the truck, I think you'll agree that Mr. Bryan at this point is shaking. All right, let's try that again. Very good. Did we play the right portion there, or did we miss it? Okay. All right. At this point, Roddie Bryan is looking back down homes. Now, what does he do here? He's pulled up his cell phone. His cell phone's been down because he was driving away. When Mr. Bryan said that he was going home, when he said the guy didn't want to be caught, that's all consistent with this video. Now we can see that he's turned around. The question is, ladies and gentlemen, why is he turning around? Technically, this is the shorter path back to his house. It may be easier to get in the driveway. You can see the bushes in the video out front. Maybe he's trying to document what's going on. He said that's what he was trying to do. Maybe, and that's just me going out on a limb, I'm going to suggest to you that perhaps, and I know I'll get grief for this, I would submit to you that you can call it karma, you can call it fate, I would call it divine providence. Somebody is guiding Mr. Bryan, whether it's a conscious thought process or not. Something is guiding Mr. Bryan down this street to document what's going on. Just like Mr. Bryan's on his porch. Why does he go out? He doesn't know. He gets in his car, he sits out there, he doesn't even know why. He's being guided, whether that's by a God, if you believe in a God, or by some other entity. But do you really believe it's just coincidence or chance? Do you really believe Mr. Bryan is trying to lie or deceive you at this point? But we're going to go ahead and we're going to continue playing the video. Watch when the truck comes into view. Right here. Okay. Mr. Bryan is traveling, as he testified as an agent indicated in the reenactment video, he's traveling at 10 or 15 miles an hour. He's traveling faster than Mr. Arbery. But clearly, if he was trying to hunt him down, he would be going a lot faster. More to the point, at this point, as Mr. Bryan comes around the dogleg, what we're seeing here, I can't be sure whether this is the enhanced video or not, but what we're seeing here in this courtroom with the artificial interior lighting is certainly a better view than Mr. Bryan has actually looking through that phone with the glare and other stuff that's going to be in the car on a sunny day. Anyone who's tried to look at pictures on their phone while they're driving on a day like this understands that sometimes you can't see the phone at all. But assuming that Mr. Bryan has 20/20 vision, and assuming that he has every bit as good a view of his phone as he's driving as you see here, where's Travis McMichael? I can't see Travis McMichael in this picture. Really, honestly, I can't see Greg McMichael in this picture. And I certainly can't see any guns. Now, what's our post on this one? Where is this? This is at 1:15 into a 1:43 video. And Mr. Bryan at this point has no reason to know that the individuals in that truck have guns. All right, let's. Okay. All right, you can still, at this point, I think you can see that there's a shadow, a silhouette of what's Travis McMichael. But from where Mr. Bryan is in his vehicle, again, even if he has a perfect view of his phone, you can't see a weapon. You can't see anybody's armed. All right, we're going to go forward again. At 1:15, now watch, you see that Mr. Bryan's phone is focused to the right of the truck. Why? Because Roddie Bryan doesn't know Matt Albenzi is down on Jones at 220 Satilla with his phone and his gun. The McMichaels know because Mr. Albenzi's given them the hand signal. Mr. Arbery knows because he's run out of the house away from Mr. Albenzi. But Roddie Bryan doesn't know that. Roddie Bryan is thinking that Mr. Arbery, like he has for the last minute or so that he's been out there, that Mr. Arbery is just going to go around the truck like he's gone around the trucks the whole time and head out Satilla towards the exit to the neighborhood. All right, go ahead again. At 1:16, Travis's silhouette should come in view. That's Greg McMichael. Or we passed that. Okay. Now there's Greg McMichael in the back of the truck. Now we know that he has a gun. I think at this point he's on the cell phone. But from Mr. Roddie Bryan's vantage point, looking through this phone as he's trying to drive on a sunny day in his truck, how can Mr. Bryan know that Greg McMichael has a gun or that he's drawn it? He can't. Go ahead. Go to 121, play to 121. All right, this is 121. You can see Mr. Arbery. You can see how far back Mr. Bryan is. And you can see Mr. Arbery going to the left momentarily. And way over here, and I promise not to touch the screen. This little fuzzy black thing here, this silhouette is Travis McMichael. Where on this video, putting aside the fact that Mr. Bryan's not going to have as good a view driving on a sunny day in his car, from this video alone, where is Mr. Travis McMichael's shotgun? Roddie Bryan can't see any weapon. He has no reason to know that these men are armed. And at this point, there's 20 seconds left in this video. And we're just going to go ahead and play it. And you tell me, in your mind, because you can't tell me, figure out when Roddie Bryan can see Travis McMichael's shotgun. Because Roddy's looking the wrong way. He's looking to the right, expecting Mr. Arbery to run off. Wow. We're now at what? Where are we on the timestamp?
128.
We're now at 128. Roddie Bryan has never seen, and I don't care what is in any prior statement, we know looking at this video, Roddie Bryan's never seen the shotgun until after it's been discharged the first time. That's not an opinion, that's fact. You're looking at it. You just never looked at it from this perspective before. Let's go ahead and play the rest of it. That's it? All right. Now again, oh, I already had it there. Having looked at the video again slowly from Mr. Bryan's perspective, when did Roddie Bryan know the McMichaels brought guns? I would submit to you that Mr. Bryan doesn't know that there's a gun until it goes off. Not because it wasn't there, but you see what Mr. Bryan is seeing. When did Roddie Bryan know Travis would shoot Mr. Arbery? I would submit to you he can't know until Mr. Arbery is actually shot. And at that point, what could Roddie Bryan do to stop this tragic shooting? The state has thrown out all kinds of theories. He could have honked his horn. He could have gone to the left. He could have gone to the right. He should have backed up. Well, obviously, if Mr. Bryan saw a shotgun pointing down the street in his direction, he probably would have at least ducked. But he doesn't do that because Roddie Bryan can't see the gun. And when the state tells you that he was hunting Mr. Arbery down, what they're trying to tell you is that he's going down the road towards them when he's going up the road away from them. And when he says he turns around, he brings the video back up. He takes the best video that we have, the only video we have of this shooting. So when Mr. Bryan says on the side of the road on February 23rd to Officer Minshew, I was trying to record what happened. I don't know what I got. I think I got 2 or 3. He only got 1. But fortunately, he got the one that you need to figure out what justice is in this case. And again, it's not for Roddie Bryan, it's not for me to say what justice is here between the McMichaels and Mr. Arbery and his family. That's not our call, that's your call. But again, but for Mr. Bryan, whether you call it serendipity, luck, coincidence, or the hand of God here, not once, but twice, has someone who keeps to themselves, who never gets involved in anybody else's business, who is almost a stranger in his own neighborhood, has now gone out and gotten a video, which is the best evidence for you to look at in trying to figure out what happened here.